Good afternoon and welcome. You're watching BCAM TV, and today we have some special guests. We're speaking with members of the American Red Cross who will be giving us information on ways to get involved with the organization and some volunteer opportunities. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So getting right into our questions, many are of course familiar with the Red Cross and have utilized services you offer. Can you tell us a little more about yourselves and your association with the American Red Cross?
Sure. Let me first just say that the American Red Cross mission statement is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. The American Red Cross is made up of over 90% volunteers. And my name is Rick McGinnis, as Martha earlier said, and I've been with the American Red Cross now for about 17 years. I started in what we call collections, which is the staff that go to the blood drives and collect blood. I did that for a few years. I moved to the Worcester Donation Center, where I specialized in collecting platelets. Did that for another couple of years, and finally wound up where I am now, which is as a recruitment specialist with volunteer services. And my job is to recruit, along with two others in Massachusetts, to recruit all the volunteers that the Red Cross uses to complete their mission in Massachusetts.
Awesome, thank you. Marnie, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Marnie Kaufman, and I am a disaster action team supervisor and a duty officer with the American Red Cross. And basically what that means, there are kind of two parts to it. For disaster action team, it means that I respond immediately to disasters that happen across the state, whether that be fires, floods, hurricanes. When I originally signed up, I thought I would be deploying to the wildfires out west, to hurricanes along the South Coast. I didn't realize how many disasters happened in Massachusetts. So we serve about 4,000 displaced people in Massachusetts every year. There are over 700 events every year in Massachusetts. So in the greater Boston area, that means there is a fire that displaces people every single day. So that's what I do.
Wow, thank you. And Julie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself as well?
Yeah, thank you. My name's Julie Benyo, and the position that I volunteer with the Red Cross is as a donor ambassador. That means I go out to blood drives, and I'm the first person that a potential donor sees when they come to a blood drive. I help get them registered and through the process as smoothly as possible.
All right, thank you. So can you tell us a little bit more about how viewers or what viewers can do to help the American Red Cross?
Yes, so there are many ways to help the American Red Cross. There are financial donations, volunteering, donating blood, but specifically myself, Julie, and Marnie are here to talk about our need for volunteers. So after this presentation, if any of the viewers are interested in getting more information about volunteering or other volunteer opportunities that we didn't talk about today, they can contact me either directly at ricardo.mcginnis@redcross.org. They can go to our website, which is redcross.org/volunteer, or they can call me at 617-571-9244.
Awesome. So you mentioned some high priority need volunteer positions. I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about the two positions, the blood donor ambassador and the disaster action response team volunteer, and what they do.
So I will quickly give a description on them, and I will let the two people that can best talk about those positions, and that is Julie and Marnie. So the two volunteer opportunities that we are desperately recruiting for in your area, Braintree, are the blood donor ambassador and the disaster action team member. A brief description of a blood donor ambassador would be someone who volunteers at the many mobile blood drives that we have throughout the state of Massachusetts. There are primarily two functions of a donor ambassador at a blood drive. One of them would be to more or less act as a receptionist to meet and greet the blood donors as they come in. And then another function for the donor ambassador would be to volunteer in what we call either the snack area or the canteen, where the blood donor goes and sits for about 15 minutes after their donation. I'm very familiar with the blood donor ambassador position because I've been working with biomed for quite a long time. I'm not so familiar with that, so I want to quickly read a little blurb that my colleague who does specialize in disaster action team gave me. So every day people are forced from their homes due to fires, storms, or other disasters. Our disaster action team volunteers respond day and night to meet the immediate needs of their neighbors. Assistance given may include financial provisions for food, clothing, and lodging, emotional support, prescription medication, and other critically needed items. The disaster action response volunteer will go through a series of trainings to prepare them to respond to residential home fires. Courses will include the various systems we use to record and track our response, client-centered customer service trainings, and additional programs. The courses can be taken during a boot camp weekend or virtually through our e-learning services. And as I mentioned earlier, I think Marnie and Julie can give a better description on how they look at the two positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we hear from Marnie and Julie on what you guys do and how what your job entails?
Sure. Who do you want to go first?
Julie,
for it.
you can go first.
All right. Well, I first became associated with the Red Cross back in high school when a blood drive came to our high school, and I first donated there. And I've been donating fairly regularly since then. And so I'm working on my 11th gallon right now. And as I had, as the years went on, I wanted to become more involved. And so when I went to blood drives to donate, I got to realize that the people that were first checking me in and registering me were themselves volunteers. And I thought that that was something that perhaps I could get involved with. So I did sign up for it. There is an online training that doesn't take very long. And then I shadowed a seasoned donor ambassador for a drive. And then I was on my own. And I've been doing this for a little over, well, about 3.5 years now. And as I say, I'm the first person that a potential donor sees. There is a check-in process, process. So I make sure that they meet the qualifications, well, some of the initial qualifications to come to the drive. I certainly welcome them, make them feel comfortable if it's their first time or they're working on their 11th or more gallons. Still, I think it can be a little nerve-wracking to come to donate blood. And so I try to make it an easier process. And also for the staff that are there drawing the blood, I try to make it easier for them too, because I allow them then to just focus on their job. And I take care of the front end work and the back end of making sure that the snacks are there and available and asking folks how they're doing and certainly thanking them for their donation and hoping that I have made it a comfortable enough experience that they want to come back and do it again, and maybe bring some friends with them another time. And in terms of who can do it, anybody can do it. You can do it while you have a full-time job, part-time job, retired, whatever. There are drives, I think as Rick said, 7 days a week. And there is a website that we can go on and we see all the shifts that are in Massachusetts. And we simply pick the ones we want that might be closest to our home or to a family member that perhaps we want to visit before or after a drive on the weekends, ones that go into the early evening, ones that start in the super early morning. So you can choose whatever is right for you. And a typical drive is about 5 hours. So it's not a long commitment at all. And the Red Cross asks for a minimum of 1 shift a month. So it's not a big pull on someone, and you really do feel like you're making a difference. There is such a critical need for blood, and if you whatever I can do to help them gather more blood, help more people want to become or stay blood donors, then I feel that that's an important role that I'm playing for the Red Cross and for people in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you just go a little bit more into what a day in the life would look like? So if you mentioned that the shifts, you can pick your own schedules and kind of go about it that way. So if you were to go in for a shift on a regular day, what would that look like?
Well, so there's usually a table set up outside of the blood donation, the collection area, so that it's pretty separate from that. So that someone comes up and I ask them if they filled out any pre-reading or pre-questionnaires. And if not, then I help them go through those questionnaires and do that. And then register them on a computer that we have, help them go through that process. It's really a self-explanatory process, but for a lot of people, it can be confusing. So I help them go through that, encourage them to have a seat and have some water while they're waiting. And then they get called in and they donate their blood. And when they're done, they come into the snack area. And I just walk over occasionally every now and then and say, how you doing? That wasn't so bad, was it? You're going to come back? Hope to see you. And make sure that they have some water or some juice. And I always encourage the snacks, say, these are good ones if you want to try these. And that's, I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy seeing them at the front end and the back end. And that's pretty much what my day is like. And if there's sometimes a wait can happen, and I encourage them to wait, but I always say, if the wait gets a little bit too long, maybe you can reschedule and come back another day. But we really need your blood. And so please do see us again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you. Marnie, can you tell us a little bit more about your position?
Sure. So when I started with Disaster Action Team, like Rick said, there are a couple of different ways to train. You can take the classes at your own pace online, or you can do kind of disaster boot camps where you do a lot of courses over the course of a weekend. You're matched with a mentor that kind of helps you through the process. So you start out as a trainee where you're learning everything, and then you become a service associate or a supervisor. So for the Disaster Action Team, you sign up for 6-hour shifts, and the shifts are 24/7 because disasters happen 24/7. So during your shift, you may not get called at all. So you can go about your life. But if you have flexibility with your work schedule, if you're not working, if you don't mind being woken up in the middle of the night, you get the call and you go, and you don't go alone. We always go a minimum of 2 people. And depending on the response, you could have 12 volunteers on site for very large scale disasters and fires. And so we literally go and meet the clients whose world has just turned upside down. So we are serving clients that, for whatever reason, whether it be a fire, a flood, a hurricane, a tornado, cannot stay in their home. And so they don't know what to do. They may have lost everything. There may be injuries. So we come on scene, and our job is to make sure they have a safe, warm, dry place to stay that night. And to do that, we bring blankets and snacks and water bottles and stuffed animals and kids' activity books, and kind of just surround them and say, okay, let's talk about what happened. And we do interviews with each family and enter that all into a computer system. And that allows us to create a case for them, assign a longer term caseworker and recovery worker to them, and to immediately give them financial assistance so they can go to a hotel, so that they can get food, so that they can get clothing if they need it. We can bring on-site mental health workers because these are really, really traumatic events for people, and they feel really lost. We also can help them if they have prescription medication, medical devices, glasses, contacts, those kinds of things that in the middle of a fire, you don't always remember to bring out with you because you just want to get out safely. So we can help them replace all those items. And I think that the biggest thing we do is just kind of, we come in with all these resources and experience and support, and we can kind of say, we've got you. Like, you don't know what to do. You shouldn't know what to do. This is a horrible situation, but we've got this whole team that is here to support you. and to get you through tonight and to get you through every day moving forward. And when you think of how often this happens, I had no idea. You know, you occasionally see articles in the newspaper, but these fires that displace people happen every single day, and they can displace 1 or 2 people, or they could displace 45 apartments, you know, and all the people in them. So, you know, there's a huge need. Once you're trained locally, you can just as easily deploy to other states, you know, and even countries if you want to. So that's kind of, disaster action team is really kind of a hands-on, immediate, we're coming to the scene, we're there to help you right away. But there's another piece that is a virtual piece, and that's called being a duty officer. And a duty officer is basically a glorified dispatcher. So a duty officer gets a 4-hour shift, and all the calls that come in across the whole Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so whether they come from fire or from clients or from the police department or emergency management, they call and they say, we have a situation, we need help, we need a team. And the duty officer is in charge of looking up, finding that team. So finding the supervisors and the trainees and the service associates and the mental health workers and everyone that signed up for shifts, and creating a team that will support that response. So that you can do from it. You can be in another state and log in and do it. You know, it's a 4-hour kind of commitment that way. It's amazing. You see such strength in people going through the worst days ever. And it's really such a gift to be able to go to meet with them with all the resources that the Red Cross has for them. So I love it. I think it's just, it's addictive, you know, it feeds on you because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really helping someone. So, you know, and you're so supported along the way by other Red Crossers. You know, everybody, they want you to succeed. They want you to enjoy this. They want you to help. You know, our whole goal is, how do you get to yes? How can you find a way to say yes to the client, whatever they need? You know, how can we make that happen? And that's just, it's a really neat environment. So I love it.
I know you mentioned that these are 6-hour shifts and that you can get called in sometimes, which is a little bit different from the blood donor ambassador. So how does that scheduling work? Do you sign up for your hours, or are you scheduled hours? How does that work?
So it's completely random. You can set up for a recurring shift. You say, okay, I know from 6 p.m. to midnight every Tuesday night is a good window for me. You can change it on a daily basis. So it's whatever works for you and your schedule. At first I thought, oh, if I sign up for a shift, I have to just wait for the phone call for 6 hours. And you may not get a phone call because there may not be a disaster, which is a good thing, but you just have to be ready to respond if needed. So, you know, and you're a volunteer. So worst case scenario, you can always still say no, you know, if something comes up or if there's an issue. But yeah, it's 6 hours. They're, you know, 4 6-hour shifts each day.
All right, thank you so much. I know earlier we mentioned that the Braintree area was needing these high priority volunteer positions. So I was wondering, are there any other counties or areas that are also in need for donor ambassadors or the DAP member response team?
Absolutely. So with the disaster action team members, we are in need of volunteers throughout Massachusetts. I don't think there's anywhere in Massachusetts where we couldn't use a disaster action team member. In regards to the blood donor ambassadors, that's a little bit different because we don't really have a lot of blood drives, or really any, in Western Mass. So we're looking primarily for blood donor ambassadors in Eastern Mass, with a high focus in Norfolk County, Essex County, Barnstable County, and Bristol County. So those are the 4 counties in Eastern Mass where we are really hurting for donor ambassadors. And again, as I said, disaster action team members everywhere and anywhere in Massachusetts.
All right, and is there a need for blood donor ambassadors and DAP members in Braintree? And what blood drives would be available for that?
Unfortunately, Braintree, as well as any other town or city in Massachusetts, there are going to be fires, there are going to be disasters, there are going to be things that happen. So yes, there's always a need for a disaster action team member. In regards to the blood donor ambassador position, there are several blood drives that are in Braintree or in the area, and I just kind of want to run them off. We have two different types of blood drives. We have mobile blood drives and we have fixed site blood drives. Now, a fixed site would be, as it sounds, it's a building that the Red Cross is there and they're always there, and the blood drive is running 7 days a week, and anytime you go there, we're there. There are 7 fixed sites in Massachusetts. There are 2 of them in Northeast Mass that I want to talk about. One of them is the Dedham Blood Donation Center, located in Dedham, Mass. We need volunteers there 7 days a week. We also have the Weymouth Blood Donation Center. At this location, we're looking for volunteers on the weekend. Now, in addition to that, we have mobile blood drives. Mobile blood drive is we put all the equipment on a truck, we drive to a location, whether it's a church or your place of business, we unload the truck, set up the blood drive, and at the end of the day, we're gone. You'd never know we were there. Some of the ones that are local to Braintree would be the Braintree Town Hall. We have blood drives there. Encompass Health, located in Braintree. And I am looking at my sheet to make sure I get them right. The Weymouth United Masonic Lodge, Lombardo's in Randolph, and several drives in Quincy. All of these drives we need volunteers at. So as a donor ambassador, you would see these blood drives on the schedule and you'd pick and choose which one you wanted. I want to quickly add in that in general, the American Red Cross looks for a volunteer to volunteer approximately 50 hours a year. That's a minimum of about, an hour a day, not an hour a day, an hour a week, or, 4 or 5 hours a month. That's in general. As Marnie mentioned, DAT may be a little more committed than that. Blood donor ambassadors are about 5 hours a month. So, it equals around 50 hours a year.
Okay, awesome. So how can viewers learn more about the American Red Cross volunteer opportunities, and are there ways to sign up to be a blood drive or a blood donor ambassador or a disaster action response team member?
Yes. So before I get into that, let me just quickly add a point that I want to make sure is put out there. When people think of the Red Cross, I'm going to assume that they think of either what Julie does, volunteering with blood drives, or what Marnie does at disasters. You see disasters, the Red Cross is there on TV, or you hear about blood drives. But the American Red Cross actually has 5 lines of service. And I kind of want to put that out there right now. One of them is biomed, which Julie volunteers, biomed meaning blood and blood products. We have disaster services, which Marnie volunteers for. We have service to the armed forces, where we service military members and their families. We also have training services, where we teach CPR and babysitting classes and swimming classes and things like that. And then there's also international law. So there are 5 lines of service. So if a person was interested in volunteering and maybe disaster or maybe blood services wasn't, what they wanted, there are so many other volunteer opportunities. There are virtual opportunities, and there are also in person. And I kind of forgot the question, but I think you were asking how they could get involved. Was that what it was?
Yeah, just how our viewers can learn more about the American Red Cross volunteer opportunities, and if there's a way to sign up for either of those positions.
All right, absolutely. So again, the one way is to go to redcross.org/volunteer. And I'm hoping that we can have that on for the viewers to see. They can also contact me directly, which I kind of encourage, because I have time, I will sit down and have a conversation with you, answer all your questions. And you can contact me again at ricardo.mckinnis@redcross.org. If you want to pick up the phone and give me a call, you can call me at 617-571-9244. Another volunteer position that I kind of want to throw out there is a CDL, which is a community volunteer leader. And this would be a volunteer opportunity for someone who feels that they would be able to work good with our executive directors, our regional executive directors, in helping kind of bridge the gap between their networks and the Red Cross mission. And you know, they kind of write their own ticket in terms of how they go about volunteering as a CDL, but they work directly with our executive directors. And I could go on and on with all of the volunteer opportunities, but I won't. Call me and I will.
All righty. So before wrapping up, we do have a video from the Red Cross that we'd like to play. Rick, would you like to introduce it before we start?
Absolutely. We've all, you know, had our troubles going through COVID. COVID's affected everyone. There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel, which is so, you know, I can't even say how wonderful that is. I almost thought we'd never get there. But I want to I have this video, kind of shows what the American Red Cross has been up to during the times of COVID.
All right, thank you so much for that touching video. Again, this is Rick McGinnis, Julie Benyo, and Marnie Kaufman for the American Red Cross who spoke with us today. We appreciate you taking the time and providing the town with the full scope of these volunteer opportunities. I'm Martha Constantinides, and thank you for tuning in to BCAM TV. Stay safe and have a good night.